Okay, it looks like we are live. Hello and welcome to the MMA Live Chat Show. I'm Rich Davie and it's Sunday, December 14th, 2014. On today's show, we'll be discussing the UFC on Fox 13 Dos Santos versus Miocic event, and we'll review the fights on the main card and the Fox Sports 1 prelim card. And more than likely, we'll probably do a final thoughts segment as well if we have time for that. On the show today, we have yours truly and Eddie Law. Thanks for taking part in another show, buddy. I appreciate you taking time to be here and joining me to discuss the UFC on Fox 13 Dos Santos versus Miocic event. Go ahead and say hello to anybody that might be listening, my friend.
Oh, what's up, Twitter world and YouTube world and anybody that's not sleeping yet because it's kind of fucking late. So I mean, all good though. We're awake. What's going on?
Yeah, we had technical problems. I don't know what's going on with YouTube, man, but every time I'm trying to do a show lately, there's some sort of technical glitch. So I don't know, maybe that's with all the updates they've been doing lately, but it seems like every time they update things, things get worse. So
Yeah, anytime you try to fix something that's working, it's gonna break, even though it's working before. And then, oh, we're gonna make it better. Yeah, okay, sure.
All right, let's go ahead and get started here. The UFC on Fox 13 Dos Santos versus Miocic event took place Saturday, December 13th, 2014 at the U.S. Airways Center in Phoenix, Arizona, and aired on the Fox and Fox Sports 1 networks starting at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And there were also 3 fights on the UFC Fight Pass YouTube channel. And there was some controversy throughout this event and a few odd twists and turns throughout the night. Let's go ahead and start up first here with the main card on the Fox Mother Network, which started at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And starting with the main event and working our way down, Junior Dos Santos versus Stipe Miocic. And, man, that was an interesting fight. There was a little bit of controversy in that one there. I didn't think it was quite as controversial as a lot of people were making it out to be. For those who don't know, this was a heavyweight fight. Dos Santos ranked number 2, Miocic ranked number 8. And the controversy had to do with the judges' scoring there. Some people seem to think that Miocic won that fight. Personally, I didn't. I didn't see the reason for all the controversy. I thought that Junior Dos Santos clearly won that fight. I had him winning the fight. I believe it was 49 to 46, I think it was. I don't recall how I had actually scored it, but it was 3 rounds to 2, at best, in my opinion. I don't know how you scored it, Eddie. What did you think of that one?
Well, because I was actually at the event because it was in my city of Phoenix, Arizona. So I mean, live is way different than when you see it on TV. And this is the first time where I could actually confirm that because I'd never watched a UFC event in person. I've been to Invicta in person, I've been to Bellator in person and stuff like that, and that's fine. The fact that, and it's maybe because UFC, you take it as the biggest promotion out there, which it is, and pretty much the most professional. So going to the event live, watching that fight live, I had it for Stipe. Like, not by a lot. Yeah, not by a lot. Watching it live, not by a lot. Then I rewatched it actually today. This morning I rewatched it. I found a link on YouTube, which I'm sure got removed already. And then I had it for JDS. Stipe clearly won rounds 1 and 2. He gassed out in the 3rd, and the 4th and 5th he just had nothing. He had nothing for Dos Santos. It's almost like Stipe was trying to get some kind of big spectacular finish to kind of cement his name in there as a possible contender. And that's just going from the TV, from when I watched it on YouTube. But watching it live, man, I can't. And part of me was hoping, Stipe was gonna win it, so that could have definitely swayed it. But the crowd swayed me for sure, because every time Stipe hit, Dos Santos, like the arena would just, explode. And when Dos Santos would hit Stipe, it would still blow up a little bit, but not as much as when Stipe hit, JDS. So, now watching it on YouTube later, the day after with no crowd, no beer that I had a shitload of, but no crowd, nothing like that. I definitely agree it was the right decision, but the controversy is gonna be there, man. A lot of people did think that Stipe won, and I was one of them. They're live, but after the fact, rewatching and everything, they made the right decision. Dos Santos won by a little bit. Those 3 rounds that Dos Santos took, the 3, 4, and 5, they were very, very close in my opinion. But it's a JDS win. But no one would have complained had Stipe won anyway, except for the Brazilians that have been pissed off.
Yeah, I thought 1 and 2 were very close, but yeah, I don't have a problem with those rounds going to Stipe. But I'm one of those guys who likes to look at the numbers, and there's this great application out there. I don't know if you have it on your phone or not. It's called the UFC Fans app. Are you familiar with that?
No, but I'm actually gonna grab it real quick.
It's awesome, dude. I mean, it sits there, and you get to see what's happening live as it's happening. The punches. I mean, it's better than watching. It's almost like, remember the CompuStats that they had during the fights in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like that, where and the punch numbers in every single round favored Junior Dos Santos.
It's the one by Metro PCS, right?
Correct.
All right, I'm just on it now. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and going by the numbers, because I like to look at those 2 the day after. Definitely agree. JDS, caused the most damage, and you can kind of tell Stipe gassed out in that 3rd round, because even I said, I was like, man, Stipe's gonna get knocked out right here, because he's had nothing. He got rocked quite a few times.
Well, I thought, what I thought, to be honest, and I'm gonna sound like an ass for saying this, but I mean, I know the heavyweight fighters, are carrying a lot of weight around and things like that, and I just thought when I was watching that fight, I'm like, are these guys fighting in Colorado in the Mile High area? Because they just looked so labored throughout the entire fight, not just in 3, 4, and 5, but I thought they looked labored and I thought they looked sloppy. I mean, both of them.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I agree with that. Obviously, I don't know I don't have the elevation numbers in my head, exactly, but there was a few fighters that were affected by it. And, coming from lower elevations. We're not Colorado. This is Arizona, but still, it's a little higher than a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that might be a factor. But again, in heavyweight fights, if the fight gets past usually the 1st round, unless your name is Cain Velasquez, if you get past the 1st round, you're gonna be a little tired. Regardless, you're not working cardio that much in camp. You're working strength and power and striking for the most part. But yeah, man, they both look gassed. And did you see Dos Santos' face afterwards? I mean, he looked like he's the one that lost the fight.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know. Very close fight. Again, live. But afterwards, I'm not gonna say Dos Santos had it handedly either, because he gassed out too. But Dos Santos did just enough to win, in my opinion.
Yeah. And what was really funny? I don't know if you went back and you listened to any of the commentary by Goldie and Rogan. But I'm watching the fight and I'm listening to the commentary. And I'm going, in the later rounds, I'm going, what the fuck are these guys talking about? I mean, I didn't see it the way that they were calling it in the later rounds. It's like, they were cheering for fucking Stipe to win. I mean, it wasn't very professional as color commentary.
Man, it was a whole night of a lot of stuff that I'm sure Rogan got caught up into as far as being emotional and everything. Look, Stipe's a good dude. It's the kind of guy you can cheer for. He was what Dos Santos used to be, the underdog story. Steve and Rogan is clearly a big fan of underdog stories. I mean, he talks about it on his podcast all the time. He likes the guy that has a long shot, has no shot to win. He was impressed with how Stipe didn't get knocked out, first of all, and he was impressed by the fact that Stipe hung in there with JDS for a long, long time. And I agree. Yeah, it was bad. And Rogan being Rogan, because I do believe that's the guy that he is on his podcast and on the UFCs and all that is him legitimately. If Rogan being Rogan, he's gonna criticize himself about that, and you're not gonna see it that much anymore. He's gonna catch himself on that mistake, clearly. But yeah, I heard it. I actually. People on Twitter, during the event, during that fight, were tweeting me like, "Why the hell is Rogan so, like anti JDS?" And I told them, I was like, I can't hear the commentary right now. I'm in the arena. But this morning watching it with the commentary, he sounded a little too pro Stipe for sure.
Yeah. But I guess the real controversy, because I scored it, 49-46, I believe, but I wouldn't have a problem 48-47 either. So that's why I guess I really didn't have a problem with the decision, but I saw so many people bitching about it. But two of the judges saw it the same way that I did, so, the two judges that saw it for Dos Santos 49-46 were Marcos Rosales and Glenn Trowbridge.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other guy, Derek Cleary, he scored it 48-47. And for those who don't know, Junior Dos Santos defeated Stipe Miocic by unanimous decision with the judges' scorecards reading 48-47, 49-46, 49-46. So yeah, a lot of people were upset about it, man. But it was a card that was really riddled throughout with odd things that happened in unique situations, all happened in one event,
Yeah, I mean, to be the first card in Phoenix in the first, and honestly, one of the most stacked free cards we've had in a very, very long time. I mean, these things were stacked from pretty much the bottom to the top. And so, a lot of weird shit went down. The JDS decision, what happened with Barner, what happened with Joe Riggs absolutely was weird as hell. Mm-hmm. What happened with Brunson and Ed Herman? What the hell? You know what I mean? Like you started thinking like, oh God, you're just waiting for that one bad thing to go wrong to make this card horrible. But it ended up being a pretty damn good card.
Yeah, I thought it was a good card too. And my brother also, he was with you. He actually, which is why I wanted to get him on the show, because I like to have people on the show that have a different opinion than I do. But he was also saying that Stipe won, because I was speaking with him after every fight by phone. And when it was over, I said to him, man, what did you think of that fight? Oh, I thought Stipe won. I said, really? He said, well, I said, I'm in total disagreement. But I was hoping that he could join us on the show, but that was a technical glitch that we had, which is why we didn't get started right away. Okay, so any other comments on that main event?
Not at all, except for the fact that while JDS won the fight, Stipe also won in notoriety and respect and being recognized as a guy that can hang with some of the top heavyweights. I expect him to get another top heavyweight for his next fight for sure.
Oh yeah, he's got nothing to hang his head about. I mean, like I said, 1 and 2 were close, and even a couple of the later rounds were close as well. But when I was looking at the numbers there as they were happening live, and check that feature out on that phone next time you're watching the fight. Wow, I was just watching those numbers climb and climb and climb for JDS, and I'm like, what the hell is Rogan and Goldie talking about? The numbers that they're showing as the punches are coming in just don't align with what the two of them were saying,
Yeah, but
it was a good fight.
Again, yeah, it was a great fight for sure.
Yeah, and like you said there, Stipe is not going to have any problem. He's probably gained a lot of fans from that.
Oh, for sure. I'm one of them. I was never a huge Stipe fan, but I was. I liked watching him fight. I was never a guy that was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch Stipe. Just because he's on. I'm for sure gonna be watching Stipe from now on.
Yeah, he's been around forever too, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, for sure he has.
Okay, let's move on here. I'll wrap that one up there. Junior Dos Santos defeats Stipe Miocic by unanimous decision with the judges' scorecards reading 48-47, 49-46, and 49-46. And I know you probably didn't enjoy the co-main event as much as I did, but I thought that was a great fight. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Nate Diaz. And Rafael Dos Anjos defeats Nate Diaz by unanimous decision with the judges' scorecards reading 30-27, 30-26, and 30-26. And, that was one hell of a beatdown. And to me, I thought, was such a performance like that he should have probably won a performance of the night bonus, because he truly performed, and it was unbelievable. I mean, the way that he just dominated Nate Diaz.
Man, it was a hard fight for me to watch, man. But we were talking about it before because I went with one of my friends, and we were talking about it before the fight started. Because we were arguing. The chick to my left, my friend was on my right, but the chick to my left was getting mad at me for saying War Diaz, and I was yelling that shit out. I didn't care. So I was like, oh, War Diaz gonna whoop his ass and all that stuff. Knowing fully well that Saunders is a beast. All right, this guy is not fighting, fighting as a co-main for no reason. He's a beast. So we started discussing, and I started saying, look, the way you beat a Diaz brother is to leg kick the hell out of him. Because if you lose a leg, you're not boxing anybody. You know what I mean? You're not hitting anybody with fists. And what the hell does Santos do but
exactly
chop his
leg
off? He chopped his leg off. And I mean, he kicked him one time, and I'm like, all right, Nate, you need to.
And he went flying off his feet. Do you remember that one? Oh.
Yeah, he fell back. Yeah. No, dude, and by the end of the first round, I mean, I knew it was over. I mean, it wasn't over yet, but I knew that for Diaz to win would be a long shot. There's no way with one leg he's gonna box him. This has to become a grappling match, and he's got to take his chances against Dos Anjos on the ground. And he didn't really have much of a chance because Dos Anjos got on top of him real heavy and was laying the ground and pounding elbows, cut him wide open and all that.
Yep.
Oh man, it was hard for me to watch because I'm a huge fan of the Diaz brothers. And actually, after the event, we were walking back to my truck, and Nick and Nate and their whole crew came around the corner walking to their car, and which to me was it was kind of a mark out moment, to be honest with you. But I didn't actually mark out. I was like, holy shit, the Diaz brothers, what the fuck, But anyway, yeah, definitely chopped his leg off. Nate being a Diaz, he was defiant to the end. I mean, you saw when he slapped him from the ground. Like, he open hand slapped Dos Anjos from the ground, and all Dos Anjos did would get pissed off and drop another, like, 4 elbows in his face. Yep. But definitely a huge dominating win by Dos Anjos. Deserves that title shot that they said they're going to give him. For sure deserves that title shot, especially if Khabib's hurt. But even if Khabib was healthy, I mean, Khabib's won all his fights, but I haven't seen him fight anybody in the top 5, I think. But at least not that I remember. But he's been out with injury for a while. So the title shot they're going to give Dos Anjos supposedly is going to be big. It's going to be well-deserved in my opinion. But, I mean, what's going on with Nate Diaz, man? Comes in 4 pounds overweight. He skips open workout on Thursday. He didn't even bother showing up. Says that he slept in late. He's been saying all this stuff about the UFC, about fighter pay, CM Punk, the Reebok sponsorship, basically pissing off Dana as much as he can. To me, and again, we were talking about this before the event even started with me and a few of my friends. I thought that Nate Diaz was trying to get himself fired. I'm like,
well, he just renegotiated a friggin' contract in his favor.
And see, here's the thing I heard about it. There wasn't anything renegotiated about it. He just signed another 8-fight contract, and Nate says he felt screwed. Well,
why did he fucking sign?
That's exactly what I'm wondering.
I think those two just like to fucking bitch.
Maybe, but at that point, I'm like, I'd be firing my manager right away. Why'd you let me sign that? You're my manager. You're supposed to see this stuff where I do. But regardless, you gotta wonder what's going on with Nate. And Nate, and I watched a lot of the interviews once I got back from the event, back to my house. Nate was saying that he was injured. A lot of things went wrong in his camp. He wasn't healthy. He wasn't in shape. And it was clearly obvious with the lack of making weight. And so, this is one of those things, man. You got to see. Dana White's right when he says that Nate Diaz needs to get serious about fighting if he's actually going to fight or quit. Why get your butt kicked a bunch of times and for nothing, and then he wants to make more money and he gets fined $10,000 for not making weight.
Yep.
It's like, what are you doing, man? Come on. You're either going to take it serious and work your way up, or that's it. And try to get kicked out. But look, I'll tell you this: if Nate Diaz gets cut, he will get money thrown at him.
You know what my comment to my brother was?
Huh.
Like you were mentioning there, all the negative things he's saying about the UFC and his contract and this and that, they don't pay enough, and bitching about CM Punk and everything like that. I think the UFC is just going to keep on handing him fighters that are going to beat his ass down. I think they're going to punish him for all of the bullshit that he's doing.
You want to talk all that shit? All right, fine. Here you go, Dos Anjos. Who's next? Khabib?
Yeah.
It's insanity, man. It's like, and look, I feel bad for him because I'm a big fan of his and Nick's, and it's even obvious to guys like me that he's not even he's not taking it that serious, or he's not doing all things needed to make sure everything's set, ready to go, or he's getting some bad advice from somewhere. Like they gotta change something in order to become more successful. Because they've done it so far with just skill and being them, and
I think maybe he forgot to bring his "I smell shit" face with him. You know what I mean? Intimidate his opponent.
Yeah, no, I was making jokes before that Nick Diaz has the face of a lion. Nate Diaz has the face of a crackhead. He don't even look right. Like, I was joking around about that, but still, damn, man. Like, it sucked to see him lose, but hey, Rafael Dos Anjos, man, hats off to him, and it's gonna be an interesting fight against Pettis because I don't think he could beat Pettis the way he beat Nate Diaz.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was. I mean, what did you think of that performance? I mean, that was just totally dominating, and I thought that was truly worthy of a performance of the night bonus. I mean, what do you think
Yeah,
about
and
that?
I thought, look, right after the fight was over, I was like, performance bonus right there. I mean,
Yeah,
who else did that today?
yeah,
And they gave it to Ian Entwistle, who finished his fight via heel hook in like a minute, fucking freaking, in like
yeah,
30 seconds, he won
yeah.
that fight.
Both of the guys who won performance of the nights. We'll talk about that too later at the end of the show. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, both of the guys that they gave performance of the bonus, performance of the night bonuses. I mean, let's start calling them what they are if you're going to give out knockout and submission of the night. Stop the politically correct bullshit and go back to calling them what they are, because that's exactly what those two bonuses were. They weren't performance of the night
yeah.
bonuses. This was a performance of the night bonus. You know?
No, for sure. And it's one of those things where you just hope that Dana White took care of Rafael after the fight. But it's nice to have that, that accolade, that little label that says, oh, I got performance of the night in this, on this card, whatever year ago. Those are little awards that actually mean something to these fighters, just as much in money, in dollars, as it means to them in title that they got performance of the night. They were the best performer that night, or
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, because how do you really call it performance? You're knocking a guy out or submitting a guy in less than 2 minutes, in one round.
right, right, and I mean, I'm assuming it just went because of finishes. That's it.
Yeah. But that's like I said, let's call it what it is. It's not a performance of the night. It's a knockout of the night and a submission of the night.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It's just, again, we're in this PC world where you can't have an opinion, or you're an extremist of some kind. So
Exactly.
it's crazy.
Yeah, so going into that one there, Dos Anjos was ranked number 4 and Diaz was ranked number 8. So I don't know how much that's going to impact Diaz's ranking there.
A lot. A lot. I don't think he'll be top 10. I think he'll be top 15 if he's lucky. I think he's gonna knock him down hard. Lack of making weight, lack of preparation. Clearly, got his butt handed to him. And it sucks. He's gonna have to work his way back up the ladder if he actually, gives a crap about fighting anymore.
Yeah, but then it's going to make it tough for the UFC to give him, worthy opponents that he wants. You know what I mean? Because both the Diaz brothers, they want to fight, for big money fights, but when you're losing, you can't be, calling for big money fights.
Right, and for Nate, that's not gonna happen. He better just be happy getting some guys he can get W's against for now to make his way up to those big paydays, and then he could turn on the Diaz and talk all that smack and get people to pay for the pay-per-view and all that stuff, whatever he ends up doing. But it's just weird, man. The Diaz brothers are two guys that believe they've done enough to deserve, getting paid top 5 guy money, and unfortunately they haven't. Although Nick is about to get paid big time. But it's just I don't know. They're just two guys.
I used to be big fans of both of those guys, and I kind of lost a little respect for Nick Diaz when he came back to the UFC, and he just wasn't the same guy that he used to be in the old days. I mean, you remember him back in the old days when he was in the UFC, way back when?
I saw a few of those fights, or a couple of those fights, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of his back then, and I hated to see him go from the UFC. I don't recall exactly what he was let go for. It might have been, drug testing or whatever, but...
Probably.
Yeah. But
but the thing about Nick Diaz, I mean, look, I'll be honest. Probably the reason why I like them the most because they're real and because they grew up the same way I did. It was one of those things. You go to school and any day somebody could start some stuff with you, and all of a sudden you're in trouble because you beat the crap out of a guy that started stuff with you. And I never let myself get bullied. I don't. Like I said, I grew up like them. Like, look, man, you're not gonna touch me. I'm gonna fuck you up. You're not gonna say this is about me. I'm gonna kick your ass. And so I think the reason I became fans of theirs to begin with was that defiant. They reminded me of guys that I was friends with, man. They reminded me of me a little bit, except for the fact that I actually grew up a little bit, and they kind of stayed that way. That's about the only difference I see.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap that one up there. Rafael Dos Anjos defeats Nate Diaz by unanimous decision with the judges' scorecards reading 30-27, 30-26, and 30-26. Okay, and moving on to the next one there on the Fox Mother Network. Alistair Overeem versus Stefan Struve. And once again, Stefan Struve does not utilize that massive height and reach advantage. I don't know, man. I don't know if this guy is even worthy of being in the UFC anymore. I mean, if you're not going to use your strong points to your advantage and you're going to continually take shots, you're in the heavyweight division when you've proven you can't take shots from a heavyweight. What do you do? You know?
Yeah, it was one of those things, and we were watching the fight, and people were booing at first because there was no action going on. Overeem was worried about Struve's reach. He was worried about getting jabbed to death, right?
And he was having a hard time getting inside. I mean, it looked like Mutt and Jeff were fighting, you know?
Yeah. Well, but once he realized Struve's not jabbing me, what the hell? Oh, I'm going in. And he started throwing hard overhands, and then he went in there for a couple shots, trying to take him down and whatnot. As soon as I saw that he wasn't using his reach, not using his height, wasn't trying to front kick too much. He got two of them in there and barely touched. Not trying. He wasn't trying to keep a distance at all. Once I saw that, I said, you know what, Overeem's gonna get him to the ground somehow and just ground and pound him, and that's exactly what happened. I chalked it up to cage rust, man. I mean, and on the fact that last fight Struve was supposed to have, that he ended up having to withdraw from they actually had to cancel the fight because he had an anxiety attack and he passed out. At least that's the official story. That he was supposed to fight Mitrione, all right? He went from Mitrione to Alistair Overeem. All right, I don't care what anyone says about Alistair Overeem. That guy's still a killer, a monster of a man, and that's still a huge jump in skill level, in my opinion, as far as the heavyweights go. But I chalked it up to just just cage rust, man, and it really sucks for a guy that is just he's I'm not gonna say he's a circus. He's an attraction for the fact that he's 7 feet tall. And believe me when I say he's every bit of 7 feet in real life. Walked right by him. Dude is tall as shit. I'm like, and you know what makes me mad about him is the fact that he's 7 feet tall. He probably didn't even bother learning how to play basketball. That makes me mad, dude. I'm 5'10". All right, had I been 7 feet tall, I'd be in the NBA. Promise you that, for sure. All right, but just think about this. I'm gonna go off on this tangent really, really quickly. If you're 7 feet tall, like Stephen Struve, you learn how to play basketball. You can make minimum in the league is like $400,000 a year to ride pine. Okay. If you're 7 feet tall and you can at least play defense, you can get a $2 million a year contract for 82 games plus playoffs. Okay, you don't have to get punched in the face. You don't have to deal with sponsors. You don't have to deal with any of that crap. It's guaranteed money. Yep. So lesson to you, ladies and gentlemen out there, or young kids that are watching this right now, or will watch this in the future. If you're over 6'6" and can play basketball, please go get paid. Don't get in a cage and fight for little nothings right now, and possibly lose your brain in the process. Go play basketball and get paid guaranteed money. That was my rant. There you go.
Or get your jaw busted in 3 places because you want to stand there and prove that you can fight.
Yeah, you get knocked out by a midget named Mark Hunt, or at least a midget compared to Struve. Like, what the hell, dude? Really? Like when he got hit in the jaw, my first thought was, how did Mark Hunt get that close? What was that?
Because he never uses his height and reach. I mean, when he first started fighting, he used his height and reach, but no longer.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, man, I'm gonna be keeping an eye out for his interviews if I'm not able to get one first, which I probably won't be able to because the high level or the upper fighters rarely get back to you, but unless you're like a big name media outlet. But if I'm gonna wait and see what interviews he does because I want to see exactly what his game plan was against Overeem. Because if it wasn't to use his reach, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. I really don't.
Well, I don't know. How many is that for him now on the losing column here in the UFC? Because I don't see him being able to stay around in the UFC much longer. Because not only did he have that issue with the broken jaw, but he had the enlarged heart issue as well, where all of a sudden that disappeared and went away. Then right after that, he had the panic attack that caused that last fight to be canceled. So, I mean, the guy's got problems on a number of fronts.
Yeah, man, he's had a lot of fights in UFC. In the UFC, he's lost to JDS back in 2009. He lost to Roy Nelson in 2010. Travis Brown in 2011. And now he's riding a 2-fight losing streak, Mark Hunt and Alistair Overeem. I think they give him just for the fact that I mean, like people want to say all they want to about the heavyweight division, saying that oh things are changing in the heavyweight division. They're really not. They're still kind of starved for talent. So I think they'll keep him around for at least one more fight before they let him go. But yeah, you're right, man. I think he's one of those guys that's like one more loss and he's done. You know, three fight losing streak for a guy in a heavyweight division, and health problems and all that. Yeah, man. He could be on his way out.
Yeah. All right, so going into this fight here, Overeem was ranked number 9, Struve was ranked number 11. And wrapping this one up here, Alistair Overeem defeats Stefan Struve by knockout due to punches at 4:13 of round number 1. Okay, now let's move on to the other fight on the main card here. This was the opening fight, and this was Gabriel Gonzaga versus Matt Mitrione. And Matt Mitrione is on somewhat of a tear here. This is his 3rd straight first-round KO or TKO. And against somebody like Gabriel Gonzaga, that has a lot to say for Matt Mitrione, because a lot of people didn't really think he had it, and I was actually one of them when he came out of the Tough show. I wasn't really all that impressed with him on Tough, and then he started doing a little bit better in the UFC after Tough, and now he's 3 straight first-round KOs or TKOs. Pretty impressive.
I mean, yeah, and here's the thing about Matt Mitrione. Mitrione, they brought on the Tough because he had that story of I'm a former NFL player, I'm an athlete, and I'm trying my hand at fighting. They didn't think he was gonna be much, and then he came out, and first thing he does when he gets in the UFC, he goes on a 5-fight win streak that gets cut. It gets ended. Czech Congo ends it in 2011. Then he loses to Roy Nelson the next year in December of 2012, beats Philip DeFries or DeFries, however you say it, I think it's DeFries, and then loses to Brandon Shaw. Well, now he's beating Sean Jordan, Derek Lewis, and Gabriel Gonzaga, all first-round knockouts, all finishes. Here's the thing. Gabriel Gonzaga is the first real name that he's beaten. I mean, his other wins, Joey Beltran used to fight heavyweight. Joey Beltran could fight 185 if he actually decided to diet, okay? Kevin Ferguson, Marcus Jones, Tim Hague, no big heavyweight names. Well, now he's finally beaten a Gabriel Gonzaga who's had some big finishes of his own, who's had that notoriety. He's a bigger name in heavyweight. So now, like, we're not talking, title shot for Mitrione, nowhere near it just yet. But you can make the case to give him another name, give him somebody else to fight that could fight back. Maybe not a JDS, maybe Stipe. I don't know, give him Stipe if that makes any sense. It just depends on what Dana White and Joe Silva want to do. But I think ever since Mitrione changed his mindset into something a lot more positive, I mean, you heard in his post-fight speech, he was saying that he thanked all the people that cared about him, that care more about his success than getting something out of his success. They were just happy for him. He's in a very positive mindset. So that is a very powerful thing for a guy like Mitrione, and he's going on a tear with it, man. And I'm very curious to see who they put him up against next. And if he'll ever actually make a title run, and any maybe take on a Kane or a Verdun, depending on who's champion at that point. But it's a start. It's a start for Matt Mitrione for sure.
Yeah, I kind of like the guy. I mean, I always liked him. I just wasn't impressed with him on Tough. He was always playing up like he had some sort of mental issue on Tough, if you recall that.
Yeah, and it's called Meathead is the reason for it, I guess. But no, Mitrione. I mean, look, he's never fought outside of the UFC. He was 0-0 when he came in 2009, and ended up he's had a pretty good career. He was 9-3, but he's 36 years old. Mm-hmm. Obviously, once you hit, I'm assuming as far as fighters go, once you hit that 33-34 range, you start thinking about, okay, this is going to end soon. And if you're in the heavyweight division where you take the hardest, heaviest shots in all of fighting, it's unless you're fighting Hector Lombard, which you're probably going to die at that point. But yeah, it's one of those things. He's 36 years old. Who knows how much longer he could do it? So if there's ever been a time for him to make a run, it's damn right now. Yeah. And so I'm hoping he asks for a top 10 guy, maybe a top 5 guy, to prove his worth and maybe just maybe make history and at least get a title shot and at least get a shot at going for gold. because just like I said, I like Matt Mitrione too, man. Just as a guy, he's a good dude. You know, maybe a little crazy, maybe plays it up a little bit, you know, more for the cameras. But Matt Mitrione definitely became a fan favorite yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like the guy. Good to see him, you know, get a win over a big name like Gabriel Gonzaga. All right, so wrapping that one up there, Matt Mitrione defeats Gabriel Gonzaga by TKO due to punches at 159 of round number 1. Okay, and moving on to the preliminary card on Fox Sports 1 that started at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm probably going to butcher the hell out of one of these ladies' names here, but I'm going to do my best. Claudia Gadelha versus Johanna Jedrzejczyk. Is that close?
No, well, no, you got Johanna. That's about it. In fact, you can't. Yeah, I don't remember how they said it, but I actually asked for the right pronunciation from one of the Brazilians that was sitting in the section that I was talking about. I ran into one of them. They were wearing the flag, and I went, "Hey, can I ask you something?" They're like, "Yeah, sure." And I was like, "How do you say his name?" And they said it nowhere near what I thought it was. It's not Claudia Gadelha. That's what I thought it was. It's something super weird. I was like, "Can I just call her Claudia?" They started laughing, like, "Yeah, whatever."
It's Claudia. It's Claudia.
Claudia, there you go. Claudia, there you go. But the last name's a little weirder. But Johanna, I'm not even gonna bother even thinking about even spelling her last name. Johanna was sharp, man. Like, woo, she was sharp, and Claudia, you know, almost matched her. She didn't match her. She almost did. That was a fun fight. Except for the booing when they went to the ground. That got annoying as hell.
Yeah, and that one was another controversial fight there because somebody is going to get in trouble, and more than likely that somebody is going to be Claudia because she struck after the bell.
Yeah.
And then she's saying that she didn't hear the bell when quite clearly she knew it was over. You know?
She was almost getting dry humped by the freaking ref. He was right there. He hugged her. He was hugging her, and she reached with her right and slapped her. I'm like, no, you thought you got cheap shotted. That's why you threw that last one. You know, but you know, Dana White said that because look, even I'll admit I was the first one to tweet it, not the first one, but I was one of the first ones to tweet out. Somebody better tell how this worked out for Paul Daley because it didn't work well for him at all. He's still not working on it. He's not back in the UFC, which while he's proved he's had some really good knockouts lately, so he should be back in there, but he's not going to be. But I was like, someone would tell her to ask Paul Daley how this worked out for him. And then Dana in the post-fight press conference was saying that the difference is that Paul Daley didn't give a crap. Apparently, Daley went up to Dana and said that he didn't care that this is really bad. And Claudia apparently, and you saw it in the ring, she tried to apologize, or in the cage, she tried to apologize, and Johanna wasn't having it. Johanna was pissed, you know. And so, you know what? That slap might have helped her in the decision. That might have helped her. The judges might have been like, "Oh, okay, you're gonna do that, huh? Okay, yeah, sure." Not in Arizona, you're not, you know. But it's I don't think she'll get in trouble with the UFC. The commission might do something about it. Nothing's been announced just yet. Obviously, it's Sunday. I don't think they work. But maybe tomorrow you'll learn more. But I don't think she'll get in trouble with the UFC at all. Dana White seemed very forgiving about it.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, to me, that's rationalizing. You know, you got to have continuity, and that's the thing that they lack in the UFC when they're handing out punishment to fighters for breaking the rules or their code of conduct, rule that they set up. I mean, it's not. There's no continuity across the board with how they're, going after the fighters for breaking the rules. I mean, breaking the rules is breaking the rules, and that was quite clearly, whether or not, did she acknowledge the fact that it was a mistake because she knew that she was probably going to be in trouble for it, and she might lose her spot in the UFC. More than likely, I'm going to say that's the reason why she was so apologetic. But does that really make a difference? You did what you did,
Yeah, and you're right. That continuity is not there with the UFC, and it's going to be. That's the reason why people right after Dana White, after a press conference, were saying like, "What are you talking about? Paul Daley's out. She should be out too." And yeah, maybe, but she. I mean, look. After she did it, she knew she screwed up. Like she knew she screwed up, big time. After she did, so she immediately went to go apologize. And I didn't hear the horn. Okay, yeah. Let's give her that. She didn't hear the horn. Fine. Did you see and feel the ref all over you?
Yeah.
At the top of the fight. Did you see that? Because that he was right there. You had
you actually reached around him.
Yeah. Yeah. You reached around the ref to smack her. Okay.
It was a punch more than a smack.
Oh man, it looked like to me. It probably was a punch, yeah. But I mean, come on. If you're gonna try and BS somebody, just make it sound believable. Just oh, I'm sorry, I was really emotional. It's my bad. Just be, at least be honest about it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that you could accept a little bit
Yeah.
more, you know.
Yeah, but no one's buying that I didn't hear the horn BS, because I mean, like I said, the ref was right there. He was almost dry humping you. You need to just stop with the BS and just say, look, I was emotional. I felt like she smacked me, after the horn, so I smacked her back. That's it.
Yeah, and that was another one of the little odd things that happened there. And again, if they did that to Paul Daly and they banned him for life, they need to do something here. Like I said, it's rationalizing. To say that she apologized and she felt bad, whereas Daly didn't. Come on, that's bullshit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And actually, I'm looking at her Twitter feed right now. She's retweeting a ton of tweets that say she got robbed. It's kind of funny. And then they're also showing like a media Sqor fight card, and they have a ton of media outlets having the fight for Claudia, including like Sherdog, MMA Fighting had it, Junkie had it, Severe had it, Cage Pages, all these other, they all had it for her. So now she's kind of trying to make her case for saying she got robbed. That's my point though. On the end of it was that little punch at the very end might have lost her that fight. In my opinion, that's why the judges were like, okay, you want to pull that bullshit, no, you're not getting no win here.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I don't recall whether or not I was watching that on the live scoring on that application we mentioned earlier. But I don't know, man. I didn't have a problem with that fight either going that way in the decision, because 29-28 for either one of those ladies was fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can look. I thought at the end of that fight, I was like, I don't know how they're gonna go with it. I have no idea how they're how they're going to score this fight, or at least who's going to win it, because it's way too close. I mean, too incredibly close to call, definitely. And it's I don't know, man. It's I don't have a problem with Johanna winning at all. I'd be excited to see her against Carla, which is what I guess is going to happen is if she gets that first title shot for the strawweight. But actually, what she got after her fight or her bout? She got to clean up, get dressed, and everything. She sat down next to Dana White for the rest of the card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we saw her walk out, and I was just like, "Is that Johanna?" Wow. Okay. Yeah, she was a little bruised up, no joke. But she sat down next to Dana White for the rest of the card, and Dana's a huge fan of hers. Huge fan, probably because Dana he's a big boxing guy, and Johanna's strike, like boxing, is just crisp, beautiful boxing that she has.
Yeah, they were pronouncing her name all night, Joanna.
Yeah, I thought it was Johanna, isn't it?
Joanna, they were pronouncing it all night.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard Joe Rogan say some weird stuff before, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's so hard with the names of these fighters nowadays because everybody pronounces them differently. I mean, even as Buffer, announces the fighter in the octagon, Rogan and Goldie are saying something totally different. They've got their own ways of pronouncing the names of the fighters. It's so hard to say, okay, how do you truly pronounce it? Because like you were saying earlier, I would, as an American, say Claudia Gadelha.
Right.
And Rogan and Goldie were pronouncing it Claudia Gadelha.
Yeah, I don't know. It sucks. I guess if you're a fighter and you actually get offended by something like that, that's gonna suck for you a little bit. But it's I don't know. I don't know what to say about that part about the name thing. But regardless, look, Claudia's gonna be fine. She's gonna come back. She'll go back on another win tear. I mean, this is her first professional loss, but she'll be back and she'll win again and she'll get a title shot sooner or later. But it's Johanna's time now, so we get to see a baller striker against a wrestler in Carla Esparza. I'm assuming early 2015.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not going to butcher her last name again, but let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. Joanna defeats Claudia by split decision with the judges' scorecards reading 29-28, 28-29, and 29-28. Okay, moving on to the next fight. Another kind of weird thing happened in this one here. Willie Gates versus John Moraga. John Moraga defeats Willie Gates by submission due to rear naked choke at 4-6 of round 3. And there was a weird thing happening there in that fight where Moraga got a kick to the groin, and apparently the ref, Jason Herzog, didn't see that. And Moraga turned to the ref and said, "Hey, man, you know," and the ref said to him, "Fight." And Moraga apparently didn't hear the fight command. Yeah. And Willie Gates just took a cheap shot. I mean, I don't care what DFW says. Yeah, technically it was within, you know, the rules of the fight because the ref said fight. But taking a cheap shot like that when the guy wasn't even looking at you, I mean, I don't know, man. That was controversial to me.
Yeah, no, I've been lucky enough afforded to be in the same gym as John Moraga. I used to train at the same gym that he trains at 2 different gyms, and as far as I remember, is the MMA Lab and at Arizona Combat Sports. And I trained at Combat Sports for about like a year and a half, 2 years. And you know, watching Moraga strike with people is fun. I mean, he's a good boxer, man. Like when he takes boxing fights, sometimes guys will withdraw once they hear of how good he is. They'll withdraw from the bout because they don't want to fight a guy as good as him. And he's an amazing boxer. Now as an MMA fighter, he's just as good overall. I mean, obviously he saw a submission yesterday. But the one thing you don't want to do is piss John Moraga the hell off. Yeah. That's one thing. As you know, watching his training partners, a couple of them do it. You don't do that against John. You just don't. You know. So
what did you think about that little transaction between the two of them?
Obviously, a Phoenix boy. He actually has the logo of the city of Phoenix tattooed on his back. Obviously, the eruption of the arena was very, very angry once Willie hit him. I thought it was a cheap shot. I said, you know, I said on my show today, I said it was a legal shot because the refs didn't stop anything, but it was definitely a cheap shot. Now, when John was looking at the refs saying, "Hey, he kicked me in the groin again," that was like the second or third time they did that. You know, that Gates had kicked him in the balls that fight. You know, and that was just like round 1. So, you know, so then, you know, John turns to the ref like, "Hey, man, he did it again," and the ref says, you know, fight. To me, I think he probably heard it, but he kept arguing a little bit. Excuse me, and that's when Willie caught him, and he dropped him.
He said post-fight he didn't hear it.
Yeah, but of course I'm gonna say that too. I don't, you know, I'd be saying that too. I don't want to be like, "Oh, I keep complaining," you know.
Well, I wouldn't have had so much of a problem with it if you know, he was looking at him and the ref said fight, but he wasn't even looking at him. And then, you know, Gates lunged in there and had him blindsided with him not even facing him. You know? Okay,
I didn't know he was looking away when the ref said fight. Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, dude, and you could tell right after that punch, John's intensity tripled. You know, and he went after Willie with everything he had after that, including when he got him in that rear naked. You know, I don't think he had it under the chin. He had it under the chin. He had it on the chin, so it was more of a neck crank. Yeah. But he pulled the hell out of it. Yep. You know, and so and I said after the fight to everyone around me, I go, "That's why you do not piss off John Moraga." All right. The reason he comes in quiet, no emotion, stone face, all right, is because he's trying to stay calm. All right. If you piss him off and he gets animated, shit is going down for sure. I'm a big fan of John's. I mean, like I said, I had the privilege of watching him spar with guys and watching his training before, and I was very excited when he got the title fight against DJ, but I thought it was too early, and it's still too early now. I don't think he's ready for another title shot against Demetrius Johnson, but he's certainly on his way. He's still young, man. He's gonna make he's got strides to make, but Willie Gates damn sure learned you don't piss him off. But big ups to Willie Gates for stepping up on late notice and still putting on a pretty good show.
Yeah, I thought that was a great fight.
Yeah, it was one of the. It was at that point. Up to that point, I thought that would have been fight of the night. Yeah, just up to that point.
Yeah, I don't recall. I didn't really score this one. I got home late from work. I didn't score it like I usually do, but I was making mental notes as I was watching the fights. But yeah, it was just kind of odd that so many, you know, bizarre things happened throughout the entire card. It was really, really weird. And wrapping that one up there, John Moraga defeats Willie Gates by submission due to rear naked choke at 4:06 of round 3. And leading up to another one of those bizarre events there, Joe Rogan versus Ben Saunders. Joe Riggs. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I didn't see Joe in there.
Yeah, Joe Riggs versus Ben Saunders. Joe Riggs, after his unfortunate injury there with the gunshot through his hand and into his leg, there he comes back, and he looked like he was in great shape, man, and it looked like he, was meaning business when he stepped into the octagon, and unfortunately, when he slammed Ben Saunders down to the mat there, and I thought that was kind of odd too, that another situation where you're wondering with Ben Saunders grabbing the top of the cage there. I wonder if that had anything to do with anything with that injury. Maybe causing Joe to turn an odd way when it went to the ground there. But apparently Joe did something to his shoulder or his neck that caused his arm to go numb, and he tapped without even actually being submitted.
Yeah, no, and the one thing I'll say about Riggs that I say all the time is that he's 30 years old, but he looks like he's 130 years old. That guy has miles on him.
Well, the guy's been up and down throughout the divisions, and he's fought at heavyweight, and he's fought everywhere, almost like another BJ Penn.
Yeah, except a lot creepier. But yeah, he went in for that shot, and he picked him up. He picked Ben Saunders up. And I was just like, ooh, this is gonna hurt Ben bad. And then when he slammed him, you kind of because I got to look at Joe's face a little bit, and he looked like he was like freaked the hell out. So then Ben Saunders gets a rubber guard, and he's about to put him in a submission, and so he starts tapping, and so we're looking around like, well, what the hell just happened? Well, a lot of theories floating around the crowd. Something like maybe he had a what's it called? Not a pointer, but whatever. Maybe something to do with his nerve. Other people thought it was like a busted collarbone, but he kept pointing to his arm like, hey, this is not working right. So it sucks because Joe is a guy that he's one of those long shots, guy that was never supposed to be there. He's not supposed to be there. He's not supposed to make it. He walked out to Cinderella Man by Eminem. So he knows it. He knows his story. He knows that people were counting him out to begin with. Look, Ben Saunders isn't a killer on his own. I don't like Ben Saunders as a fighter really. I'm not a big fan of his, and I thought Joe would have a decent shot against him. But yeah, it sucks to lose a fight that way, and for Ben, it sucks to win a fight that way because it's almost like it doesn't count. So yeah, we'll see what Riggs has left, man. But I thought for sure he'd retire after that fight. Oh,
really? You think so, huh?
Look, man, 30 years old, you taking all that damage, you put your body through hell, and then that happens to you. You got to start rethinking. Maybe your body's trying to tell you something like, hey, buddy, I think we're done.
Yeah, what I think what Rogan was saying is that he hit his head when he came down, and maybe that actually pinched a nerve in the neck when he did that, because I don't know if you've ever had any sort of injury to the neck where you do get those dreadful, the pins and needles when you bump your elbow.
Yeah.
When you have a neck injury like that pins and needles feeling goes all the way down your arm, and it's painful. Extremely painful. Like when you first bang your elbow, when you get that pins and needles from banging your elbow, and just imagine your whole entire arm feeling like that from the neck down.
Yeah, no, it's I've always been look, man, I'm not scared of many things, but a neck injury is something I'm scared to death about. I'm always very careful with whatever I'm doing, as far as workouts or training or whatever, to not do anything to my head or my neck, because neck injuries is one of the scariest things that can happen to you. The worst thing that can happen to, in my opinion, to me, with a neck injury is I become paralyzed, because I don't want to live that way.
Yeah.
So that was the first. I'm sure that was the first thing that can happen to Riggs' head. It's like, oh, my arm just went numb. What's next?
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't hear anything that Rogan was saying about the injury that he might have had, that Riggs might have had, but it just sucks, man. If you look at the guys, what? He's 32. Okay, Joe Riggs is 32 years old. He's 40-15. That's a ton of punishment. He's taking on killers, man. We're talking Nick Diaz, Chris Lytle, Matt Hughes, Mike Swick, Diego Sanchez. Matt Dempsey, who else is on here that he's just big time fighters that, Kendall Grove, just guys that are just, some of the best in the world, and he's taken on those guys and lost to most of them really, but except for Nick Diaz. Somehow he bit Nick Diaz, and I still don't think that was a legit fight, but whatever. He man, he's got miles on him, so he's got I guarantee he's thinking about it. He's at least thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's going to want to go out that way. I think he's got, something to prove to himself. So I think he's not going to retire. I think he'll hang in there for one more fight because, knowing him, he's not going to want to go out that way. He was actually, after he got shot, when he shot himself accidentally, he thought that was the end of his life. So I'm sure he's not going to want to go out that way. He's kind of like one of those really positive-minded individuals that, probably is going to want to say, okay, I can overcome this. It was unfortunate. But again, if it's a neck injury and he, maybe did hit his head and knock a disc out, or he's got a bulging disc in his neck, typically the only way to fix that is to, have fusion. And you don't really want to continue fighting if you've got a fused, vertebrae in your neck.
No, man, neck surgeries are I don't know, they're nothing to play with. But I don't know, man. I don't think he. I mean, look, I don't know. I'd be thinking about it. I don't think he wants to go out as in a loss. But it's weird. Only in Arizona will you shoot your hand while cleaning your gun.
Yeah, and I never understood that because I'm a concealed weapons permit holder, and that's one of the first things you learn when you're cleaning a gun. Make sure it's unloaded.
In Arizona, you don't need one of those, man. In fact, you don't even need classes to buy a gun. You just buy one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. We have probably the most relaxed gun laws in the country, for sure. Like I could carry a weapon on me concealed, and it's not illegal. It's still a good, really good idea to know the rules and the laws and all that stuff and what you can and can't do. But that's why I went through a concealed weapons class and course and got my license. But it's very relaxed out here. So like I said, when I heard that Joe Riggs almost blew his hand off, I was like, yeah, in Arizona, yeah, that would happen. But just like you said, he thought he was gonna die, and he did get his wife to bring his son over to him to say goodbye. That's some that'll put some positive spin on your life if you survive that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I wish him luck. I hope it's not a serious injury, and like I said, I hope it's not a bulging or a herniated disc that is the issue there, because that'll be tough to overcome. Because usually, like I said, when you have an injury like that, the only way to fix it is typically what they do is they remove the disc. I don't know if they've got new methods today, but typically what they do is they remove the disc, they put in a disc from a cadaver, and then they fuse the neck.
Well, you better start tweeting Tito about that and asking him questions, because Tito had a bunch of neck issues.
But he's just never been as good since that either.
And man, Tito hasn't been good for a long time.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. It's always good. Tito and I think Matt Hughes had neck issues. I don't remember, but I know for sure Tito had neck issues. That's one guy that he should be contacting and be like, hey man, what'd you have to go through? But yeah, absolutely. I wish him well. I do hope he comes back and gets a win. So at least if he's gonna go out, he goes out that way. But sometimes you don't get that choice, and if you got to fuse your neck that way, it's gonna be very, very tough to come back to come back and fight with a thing like that on your neck.
Yeah, especially when you're in your 30s,
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, wishing Joe Riggs good luck on that injury there. I hope it's not serious, but unfortunately, that injury gave Ben Saunders the win in that fight there. Ben Saunders defeats Joe Riggs by submission due to injury at 57 seconds of round number 1. Okay, moving on to the next one here, Drew Dober versus Jamie Varner. And it was another unfortunate turn of events for Jamie Varner here. Unfortunately, he lost that fight there, and going into this fight, he said that no matter what, win or lose, he was going to retire. And he did just that. He left his gloves in the octagon after that fight there, and he retired from MMA at 30 years old. And, that's kind of young. I mean, when you're looking at the overall scheme of things, because you see some guys fighting into their mid-40s in MMA. 30 years old to retire from MMA is kind of odd, but I guess he had in his mind that's what was going to happen. And, you have to wonder, man, did that really have any sort of impact on his performance? And, Maybe he, pretty much went into the fight saying, okay, well, I'm done. You know, I'm not going to fight as far as I normally would. I mean, he probably wouldn't say that, but maybe in his subconscious somewhere that was, his, you know, in the back of his mind there, and he was just in there to grab one more payday. But unfortunately, he's retired from MMA at 30 years old, and Drew Dober defeats Jeremy Varner by submission due to rear naked choke at 152 of round number 1. But I thought he, I don't know, I had a hard time watching that fight there because I couldn't tell who was who there because the way they were tied up on the ground there. I'm like, wait, whose legs are whose legs and whose arms are who?
Yeah, no, when Jamie went in there, and by the way, nobody but his family knew he was going to retire regardless. That announcement was a surprise to a lot of people, especially in the arena. People were actually in a bit of shock when he said that, for the fact that he is a young guy. Generally young guy, he's 30 years old, but he's got some miles on him too, man. He's got tons of fights. I think he's 21 and 11, and he's fought some of the biggest killers on the planet. He's fought Don Cerrone, Benson Henderson, Don Cerrone twice, in fact, Edson Barbosa, Drew Fickett, Joe Lozon, Melvin Gillard, Abel Trujillo, who knocked him the hell out, James Carlson, who broke his ankle, Gleason Tebow, who knocked him silly. He's got a lot of miles on him, but going into that first round, he shot in, because they traded a little bit, and he came in with this nice punch down the middle, and then he went in and shot. He picks up Drew Dober. He's about to slam him, and I don't know if Drew had his arm around his neck or something, but he brought him down, and Jamie smashes his head on the ground or on the canvas, whatever. Smashes his head down and knocks himself out. In fact, he has a concussion. He said after the fight on Twitter, he said, "Great, I slammed my own. I basically knocked myself out, and I got a concussion on top of it." But he said himself that he knocked himself out, and when he came to, he was in a rear naked choke, and he didn't know what was going on, and he tapped out. But you got to think, knowing he's going to retire, knowing this is the last fight he's ever going to have supposedly in MMA. If you're in that rear naked choke and you're in trouble, are you going to bring out the little extra that you have inside you to fight out of it and possibly get a win? Or are you going to say, screw it, I'm done anyway, tap,
Yeah.
It's possible because, look, what they say about fighters is when you start thinking about retiring, retire right then and there. Because, you're never going to...
You can't bring that burden into the octagon,
It's extra pressure on yourself. But it's extra pressure, but it's also a get out of jail free card, or go ahead and quit card almost.
Yeah.
You don't take it as serious anymore because you start thinking about, it's going to be awesome when I don't have to cut weight anymore. It's going to be awesome when I don't have to do 2 or 3 a days anymore. I don't have to.
And he made that weird comment at the end where he said, "Hey, Mom, we did it." So.
Yeah. I mean, and that's always a personal thing for him and his mom. That we're not privy to that kind of stuff, but. He was WC champ. He defended the belt. He's one of the most fun fighters, in my opinion. One of the most fun fighters to ever fight, really. Always willing to stand and bang with somebody. And he's another one of those guys that trained at Arizona Combat Sports. So I actually got to meet him too. Really nice guy. He helped fix my switch kick, the one that goes middle and then you switch it to the high. He helped me fix that, which is really, really awesome to him. Super nice guy. He's just a really good dude, one of the good guys in MMA, and it'll be interesting to see what he does because even after when he was being interviewed after the fight, not with Joe, but with the Helwani in the tunnel. No, not Helwani, with a bunch of the media, not just Helwani, but a bunch of the media. He said he wants to start a fighters union, and because he has a background, he's a smart guy. He has a college degree, I think, and he has a background in accounting and finance and all that. So he's not a dumb guy at all. He's a smart guy, and part of the reason why he got out early is because he's probably worried about those, taking those big shots, and he always talks about when he wants to have a family, he wants to have kids and all that, and you don't want to be that guy that stutters or has to, every time you eat you're dribbling out of your mouth because you took too many shots to the head. So he's getting out at a good amount of time, even though he did end up having a ton of fights before. And he, like I said, he fought some of the biggest names in MMA in the weight class. So, but when he announced his retirement, of course the arena was kind of like, oh no, but then they blew up in appreciation, and he got a standing ovation and all that. And I like gestures like that, like leaving your gloves in the middle of the cage. Sometimes basketball players will leave their jerseys in the middle of a court. Boxers will leave their gloves. Wrestlers leave their wrestling shoes, and so on and so forth. But I don't know, man. It's a good time for Varner to go. Young and still being able to function. And he has his own gym in Scottsdale here. It's a small gym, but it's there. And I don't know. I think he's got a bright future, but I'm very interested in that whole fighters union thing.
Yeah, and he was also a lightweight champion over in the WC too, wasn't he?
Man, I can't say I remember that. I mean, no, he was at WC. Yeah, lightweight at WC for sure. Yeah.
I mean, and the WC, that was pretty much the minor leagues of the UFC at the time he was fighting there.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and it's one of those leagues that I wish would have survived, because they did bring a lot of good fighters who came out of that. Benson, Donald, Jamie, Cruz, Faber, all these guys.
I used to love watching them because their fights were always free. They were actually on the Versus Network forever. And
they were, yeah.
I used to love watching the WEC. It was one of my favorite promotions. I thought it was the #2 promotion in the world, and UFC bought them out, and then they started, cannibalizing the organization until the point where there was nothing but smaller guys left over there. And then they were using it as a, kind of like a farming league where, they were, taking guys out of there, bringing them up into the UFC, and then the guys in the UFC that weren't doing well were going down into the WEC. But I thought that was a great situation for the UFC. I kind of hated to see them, shut it down. I just used to love the WEC, not only for the fact that you got to see a lot of good, young, upcoming fighters that, got a chance to move on to the big stage, but it also gave fighters that were having a difficult time in the UFC a place to, get a second chance before they went out to, one of the B or C tier organizations.
Yeah, and again, it sucks that that was that. But as far as Varner goes, man, he
had a lot of injuries too, right? He's
always fighting injury. That guy's always hurt. Always. He fights hurt. I'm sure he fought hurt in this fight, or for as long as he was in there. And now he's got his concussion and all that. So, look, hats off to Jamie. He had a great career. Like he said himself, he got to do a lot of things he wouldn't normally get to do. And, as far as the whole, hey, Mom, we did it, like, they had their own thing. Maybe that we did it is the I left on my own terms. I didn't leave because I was asked to leave. I wasn't cut, and I wasn't talked to by Dana White, convinced to retire. I left on my own terms, and that's something I think as humans we all want to do. I think one of my dreams is to if and when I have to go out, whatever that means to anybody else, I know what it means to me. I want to go out on my terms. I don't want to be told that it's over. Just have it end on without me knowing. So it's one of those things where as an athlete, absolutely as an athlete, you want it to end on your terms. That's the dream scenario. That's something guys like Chuck Liddell and all those other guys that had to be basically talked out of fighting didn't get. So, maybe that was the whole, hey, Mom, we did it thing.
Yeah. Well, good luck to Jamie Varner and his future endeavors. I am going to disagree with you. I'm not a fan of unions by any form or fashion. I just don't I don't think they're good for anything other than inflating the price of everything that they're involved with. And, in America, most of the unions that are in America, they don't do anything for the people that they really work for other than to collect their dues and support politicians. There was a time for unions at one point in the past, but today, basically, all they are is, guys who take money from, people who make them strike when things aren't going their way, and then they take that money and they buy political favors, and that's pretty much what unions are today.
That's I guess one viewpoint on it. The reason I'm not against a fighters union is because I want to see maybe a fighters union isn't necessary, but if you threaten the UFC with it, and the UFC sure as hell doesn't want unions, no way. These guys are all independent contractors. They don't want to unionize and have one voice. But maybe the threat of it will make the UFC make some changes as how to do business. just like that possible lawsuit that's coming up might do it as well. But I don't know, man. Unions are weird. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why marijuana is still illegal in the country, this is for another time, but just to leave this little nugget for people watching, one of the reasons why marijuana is illegal in the U.S. still, for recreational use, I guess, because some places have laws for medical, but the reason it's illegal still is because the union for prison guards is just one of the unions. There's a ton of unions that do this that's connected to marijuana, but the prison guard unions, they don't want weed to be legal because then you don't arrest people and throw them in prison for nonviolent crimes like marijuana, like other drugs, and then they don't have a job because you don't have enough prisoners to justify having so many prison guards. So
yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? The way that we arrest people and put them in prison for shit like that. I mean, we've got more people in prison in this country probably than most nations around the world combined.
Yeah, and there was this little segment from I forgot what show, and it kills me that I don't remember because I usually memorize this stuff. But there's a little part from a show that I've watched, and it's an old show, but it's all over YouTube. You can look it up. Look up the reason why America is not #1, and you'll see this. It's from a show, and the guy makes a good point. He goes, we lead the world in only 3 categories, and one of those categories is number of people arrested in prison for nonviolent crimes. Mm-hmm. So it's insane, and again, it's a subject for another time unless we're talking about the Diaz brothers. But it's the union thing for MMA. It'll be new, but I'm hoping it would at least scare the UFC into changing their ways and at least helping these fighters out a little more than they already do.
All right, wrapping that one up there. Drew Dober defeats Jamie Varner by submission due to rear naked choke at 152 of round number 1. Okay, moving on to the last fight that we're going to cover there on the preliminary card on Fox Sports 1, which was the opening fight on Fox Sports 1. Bryan Barberena versus Joe Ellenberger, and basically Bryan Barberena just battered Joe Ellenberger. I don't know, man. What did you think of that fight?
And real quick, for people that are wondering about what happened with Derek Brunson and Ed Herman, that fight was canceled due to the fact that Derek Brunson had food poisoning and was crapping himself and throwing up. So, I mean, they had to cancel the fight. There's no way he's going in the cage like that. But which really sucks for Ed Herman, man, because, I mean, that dude, he seemed like he was ready to go. Anyway, so, Ellenberger, Barberena, here's a fun one. Jake Ellenberger was in Joe's corner, and apparently you can't stand up in the corner. You have to stay sitting down on your stool. They had to tell Jake, and we kept counting. I lost count on how many times they had to tell him to sit down. Because once Joe got hurt and he was getting mauled by Bryan, Jake kept trying to stand up, and the Arizona Athletic Commission representative that was behind his corner kept literally going over and grabbing his shirt and sitting him down because Jake would not sit down. So, but if you're watching your brother get the crap beat out of him, you probably want to do something, Mm-hmm. And yeah, I thought before that fight ended, I think it was a TKO finish for Bryan. I thought even like a bit before that, I thought Jake would have thrown in the towel because Joe got his ass whooped on. Yep. I mean, it was not even close in my opinion. Joe maybe had the second round, maybe, possibly. But Bryan dominated, man. And Bryan, one of those guys that got the call from the UFC, he couldn't find a fight. Bryan couldn't get a fight anywhere. He trains out of the MMA Lab in Glendale, Arizona. He couldn't get a fight. Nobody would take a fight against him. And then the UFC called. They say, hey, you got Joe Ellenberger. He's like, all right, whatever. And then he beat the crap out of him. Yeah. So, look, man, Joe Ellenberger had to go through some obstacles to get to where he is now. But you wonder if those obstacles have taken anything out of him, health-wise, to be able to perform at this level. Because he lost to a guy making his debut.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's unfortunate for him. I mean, but it is what it is there. And we didn't mention exactly how it finished here, but Bryan Barberena defeats Joe Ellenberger by TKO due to strikes at 3:24 of round 3, and it was just, basically a beatdown. Any other comments on that one?
No, that's it for that one, man. It was pretty cut and dry as far as that fight goes.
Yeah, and again, like we said, just with the fights that we've gone through so far, lots of weird things happened. It was one of the most odd cards that we've ever seen with all the weird things that happened on this card. Fight Pass. I did not get to see any of the Fight Pass cards there. I mean, fights. But let's talk about Henry Cejudo versus Dustin Kimura. Apparently, Henry was not able to make weight in his last fight there, and I think he was actually pushed up from 125 to 135 because I think DFW said if he wants to fight in the UFC, he's got to fight at 135. So,
Yeah,
fortunately for him, he did make weight this time. And it was at 135. So Henry Cejudo defeats Dustin Kimura by unanimous decision, with the judges' scorecards reading 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. And I didn't see that one, so you were there. So tell us about that one.
Yeah, that fight was Henry Cejudo's had a lot of hype behind him. Everyone's like, oh, Olympic gold medalist wrestler, one of the best to ever wrestle. That's what I heard. Didn't use any of it in this fight. This fight did not go to the ground. I think Henry tried a bunch of takedowns, couldn't get Dustin to the ground. Dustin tried one. You're not taking a wrestler down like that, and then an Olympic one anyway. So they stayed on the feet for the most part. Henry has some good boxing, man. He has some pretty good boxing. I was impressed.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. I heard he just totally outboxed him from beginning to end.
Yeah. Unfortunately for Dustin, he had no shot against Henry's boxing. So, and this is one thing I disagree with Henry with because at the post-fight press conference, he said he wants to try and go back down to a flyweight. And Dana White was like, "Hey, you're the pro, man. Try it if you want to. I'm behind you on this one." But
obviously he's not a pro because he's missed 125 numerous times.
Right. No, and I agree. But it's just it's weird, man. With him. He is a good bantamweight. I think he should stick it at 135. Make the weight cut easier on him. Mm-hmm. He can still beat a lot of bantamweights out there. He can still be very competitive. We've had to talk about the weight cut before, and the weight cuts are dangerous. And a lot of these fighters are taking a lot of risks just to be bigger than the other guy. Outskill him. Let's try that. Why not? Be better than them instead of just But again, fighters always look for the edge. They always look for that little bit of edge. That's the reason guys get busted for performance-enhancing drugs. It's the reason guy like Anthony Johnson insanely was cutting down to 170. I mean, wow. But look, man, Cejudo showed he has good striking. He has pretty good striking. And if the wrestling's as good as advertised, which I'm pretty sure it is, we could have a legit contender if he goes back down to flyweight. We could have a legit contender to take on Demetrius Johnson. And give him that dogfight he's been looking for, but he's had dogfights with that smiling midget. What's his name? He just got hurt. What's his name? John Dodson.
Smiling midget.
He bothers me. Dodson bothers me. He's a nice guy overall, but
I like the guy. He seems like a really likable fella.
He's likable up to the point where he does that thing where he puts his arms out and big old smile. I just want to punch him. He's got a punchable face. There we go. He's got a punchable Ninja Turtle face. I want to hit him for some reason, but I would never do that because I guarantee he could whoop the crap out of me. But regardless, I mean, Cejudo could be a legit contender at 125. I think he'd be a solid 135er, but if he runs into the likes of Faber, it could give him a pretty good challenge. If he runs into TJ Dillashaw. Dillashaw, his striking would easily outdo Cejudo because Cejudo's still pretty young. I think he's only 6-0 right now. But hey, great debut for Henry Cejudo. Finally making weight. He made weight and Twitter blew up. That's how impressive it was that Henry actually made weight. They were like, "Oh shit, Cejudo made weight? What?" Everybody tweeted about it. It was laughable. And
well, because he's had issues in the past over and again making weight.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was embarrassing himself for Cejudo to see that. For sure, it was embarrassing. Like, oh man, they're celebrating that I actually made weight. That sucks. But I'm sure getting that win definitely helped him out for sure.
Yeah, and again another Olympian making it to the UFC, and they always do well. It seems in the UFC when they make that transition. Okay, wrapping that one up. Go ahead.
No, I was just to wrap this one up. I think, in my opinion, the reason Olympians make good fighters is not necessarily the skill-wise. I mean, it helps a lot. I'm not gonna lie, obvious. Ronda's judo, Henry's wrestling, Daniel Cormier's wrestling. A lot of these guys, or a lot of these fighters, it's not 100% just the skill, but it's the discipline. I have a lot of friends that did basketball, football, but the friends that I have that are the most disciplined guys that I know in anything they do wrestled, and they wrestled in high school and they wrestled in college. So it teaches you that discipline. It teaches you hard work, how to grind through the days, how to make it through those training sessions. When you're getting up, you're like, I don't want to do a damn thing today. I don't feel like going to cardio. I don't feel like doing striking today. So it gives you a little bit of edge, knowing, and it kind of like Cormier says, you embrace that grind. So that's why the reason I think Olympians make good fighters. Not all of them do, but most of them do. So I'm definitely looking forward to what Henry can do in the UFC for sure.
Yeah. All right, wrapping that one up there, Henry Cejudo defeats Dustin Kimura by a unanimous decision with all three judges' scorecards reading 30-27. All right, and we mentioned this one fight earlier there, but we didn't really talk about it, and I didn't see it, but Ian Entwistle defeats Anthony Burchak by submission due to heel hook at 104 round 1. So you did see that one there. Not a whole lot to talk about, but go ahead if you want to speak about that one.
And there's not much to be said. I actually had the privilege to speak with both guys before their fight. I interviewed him for Crossbones, and he Entwistle is one of those guys that's really good at one thing, and that's leg locks and heel hooks. He's like a mini white Rousimar Pajares. All right, he's one of those guys that, look, you know what he's gonna do, but can you stop it is the question. And Burchak, when I was talking to him, said, yeah, hell yeah, I can. He goes, I'm a better wrestler, I'm a better striker, I'm better in every aspect whatsoever. He kept saying that all Entwistle has is the heel hook and that he can stop it. Well, first, bell rings, whatever. Yeah, they start the fight, and first thing Burchak does is take Entwistle down, which I guarantee Ian prepared for, because he immediately grabbed that heel. I mean, it was like a 90-second fight. It was like a 90-second fight, I think. So he gets him in the heel hook, and how you defend that is you roll with it, right? Because if you're twisting it, you gotta roll with it to get the pressure off your heel and your knee and all that. Well, Anthony rolled all the way to the cage.
Exactly.
Nowhere else to roll to.
Yeah, I think I did see the highlights of that.
There was nowhere else to roll to, and they were still dry. Okay, here's one thing I tell people, my friends that have fought amateur and that have fought in the lower leagues. I always tell them, warm up, get warm, and if you can, be sweaty. Yeah. Because if you get caught in a submission early, it's easier to get out of something if you're sweaty than if you're dry. Because dry, you have all that friction. Yeah. And look, if he hadn't been sweaty, he might have been able to slip out of it. Might have been able to kick his way out of it. And look, it just against a guy like Ian, who's so good at heel hooks. Dry, you're not getting out. You're just not, especially if you hit
someone. It was impressive the way he kept rolling with it, because I did see that. It was pretty impressive. I mean, he kept trying up until he went up against the cage, and there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah, no, and Ian held on to that thing like his life depended on it. But he's just one of those guys, man, that again, what he's going to do is, can you stop it? Now, I'm not going to say he's going to be as dominant as somebody like Rousimar Pajares, who, by the way, submitted John Fitchley. I think, was it yesterday? I think he had.
I watched that right after the fights. Yeah.
Wasn't that awesome? That was a 90-second fight. Okay, now the Ian Entwistle fight was I don't know how long that was. It was probably short fight though. But the Pajares fight was 90 seconds. I think this one, the fight was about a minute 4 seconds. The one with Burchak and Entwistle. So yeah, I mean, he rolled with it, had nowhere else to go, and Entwistle's one of those guys. What he's gonna do is, can you stop it? He won't be as dominant as Rousimar or as dominant as a Ronda Rousey with the arm bars and all that. But he's definitely a guy that you cannot let your guard down, and you probably don't want to go to the ground with him unless you have a real good plan of getting your leg the hell out the way, But hey, big props to Ian, who he flew here. I think he landed here just a couple of days for the event. Not too long before the event, he was in Phoenix for like 3 days, and the elevation differences between Arizona and England or wherever. Yeah, he's in England. Is pretty big, and getting used to that takes time. So had that fight gone out of like the first round, he might have been in trouble. To where Burchak, in fact, Tucson's a higher elevation than Phoenix is. So Burchak trains out of Tucson, Arizona, and he he obviously used to it, ready to go. And that's one of the things he actually brought up when I was talking to him, was that cardio, was being able to move around at this elevation that would he felt would help him out against Entwistle. But again, I mean, sometimes you just get caught, and Berchak got caught, and he didn't get, sad for him, but he didn't get to show any of his skills really, other than getting that takedown right away. But that worked perfectly with Ian's game plan, obviously.
All right, wrapping that one up there, Ian Entwistle defeats Anthony Berchak by submission due to heel hook at 104, round 1. And let's briefly talk about the fight bonuses there. The fight of the night bonus went to Junior Dos Santos and Stipe Miocic, earning them $50,000 each. And what did you think about that? That was pretty much warranted, no?
The fight of the night, absolutely. I mean, what other fight could you have given it to? I mean, I think I made a case for which one was it? The Moraga fight. I thought could have gone fight of the night until I saw Dos Santos Miocic. That's about it, man. I mean, yeah, that was definitely fight of the night. Absolutely deserved by JDS and Stipe. And while it's not, it's not going to make up for the big loss on Stipe's record, yeah, I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about the extra check he got to take home.
Yeah. Okay, and then Matt Mitrione wins the $50,000 performance of the night bonus for his finisher Gabriel Gonzaga by TKO due to punches at 159 in round 1. Performance of the night.
Yeah.
Again, we spoke about that a little earlier there. Yeah. I don't really know if you can call that performance of the night. I mean, call it what it really was. KO of the night or TKO of the night.
Yeah, knockout of the night, man. That's what it was. And Entwistle getting the other bonus. He got the one. He got the other performance bonus. That was submission of the night. And I'm not gonna say neither one deserved it, because they absolutely did.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying neither one deserved it. But let's call them what they are. I mean, let's stop this politically correct bullshit. I mean. Yeah. You can hardly really call that a performance because it was so short. I mean, one fight, 1 minute and 4, the other fight, 1 minute and 59. So how much of a performance could you put in that short of a time frame?
No, when they took those away and they started calling them performance of the nights, I thought that was stupid. I thought you could add a bonus called performance of the night.
Exactly.
In case you had that situation like we had last night where, Mitrione got an awesome finish, Entwistle got an awesome finish, but Rafael put in an awesome performance, an overall dominant performance, a beastly performance. And like I said before, I'm hoping that Dana White took care of him. I'm not gonna say I'm sure he did, because I don't know, but I'm hoping he took care of Dos Anjos, because that was just a masterful performance from a guy who's making his case for a title shot, and hopefully, more likely, he's gonna get that shot against Anthony Pettis. But yeah, I agree with about the bonuses. Don't call them performances, call them finishes. Maybe at the very least call it finish of the night or finishes of the night.
Exactly. If you want to be politically correct, at least call it finish of the night, and then actually have a performance of the night bonus.
Exactly. And again, it's just another thing the UFC does, and I think Rafael definitely deserved one. But again, I can't. You can't. There's no way you say that neither Entwistle or Mitrione didn't deserve it. They absolutely did. So. For Mitrione, I'm sure it's just, hey, it's great, I'm getting another one. For Entwistle, that's a life changer, all right, for sure. I don't know how it works in conversions and taxes for him, but I'm sure taking that extra check home back to England is going to be big for Ian.
Yeah. Well, I hear they take like almost 50% of what you make over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, screw England. I'm not going over there. I'm never going over there.
Yeah, but again, props to Rafael Dos Anjos for that dominating performance that he put in over Nate Diaz there. I was impressed with that, and that really should have warranted him something. I mean, at the very least, they should have done was offer a third performance of the night bonus for the true performance of the night.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, Dana White has taken care of guys and girls before that put in great fights, great performances that didn't get a bonus. So I'm just hoping that this is one of those cases where he took care of Rafael. But if you're gonna define a bonus, actually define it. So do something right.
Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you rate this event?
Oh man, because I was there, I'd give it an 11. But that's just because I was there. If I was to be what's the word, objective?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I was objective, Overall, with all the weird things that happened, but with the great fights that were in, especially the main event, man, I would go with an 8 or a 9, probably a 9. I
Yeah,
think.
I'd go with a 9 too. I thought it was a great night of fights, even
Oh,
with
it
all
was.
those weird things that happened.
Yeah, no, it was great, man. It was awesome. I love seeing guys from my town, perform and win fights, and again, very happy for Jamie Varner to be able to go out on his terms, healthy for the most part, and happy seems so. It's great. And I love the fact that it came to Phoenix. The argument against coming to Phoenix has always been it's an hour flight from Vegas. Yeah, but I'm not going to Vegas if I have to pay a hotel. I'm just not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not for a pay-per-view card that's excuse me, that's advertises the best card we ever put together, and then all the fights suck. That's happened so many times in the UFC. I'm not driving to Vegas. You've been to Vegas? Have you been to Vegas?
No, I never have.
Okay, expensive as hell. I don't know what Atlantic City is like. I don't know if you've been there, but it's expensive. Everything's expensive. The drinks are 3 times the price that there are in a bar in Phoenix. It's ridiculous. So
Yeah, unless
unless
you're a
I'm
high
gonna
roller and they comp you for everything.
exactly, yeah. So and they're not gonna do that for me. So so I would never, unless I got tickets to like the Diaz Silva fight. I'm not driving to freaking Vegas for a fight. It's like you can make the case if you want to, but I think Phoenix proved its worth. So I'm hoping they come back. Obviously not gonna come back this year. It's almost over. I hope they come back at least once next year. And they put more Arizona guys in there and maybe even bigger fights because it was a really good stacked card, and people showed up for it. And that's the other thing it tells you. If you make a good card with all these watered down cards they've been putting out there with just garbage cards, and then people not showing up and people coming, the UFC complaining about people not showing up and stuff. They finally put together a good card, and what happened? People showed up. The arena was packed, so and it was loud, and people were into it.
Well, like you said, a lot of them were locals too, right?
And look, you put local fighters on it, people are going to come support their guys, and you're going to get that crowd reaction when you hear fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona. You're going to, or whatever whatever town they're in. It was good, and look, the people showed up, and I was surprised at how knowledgeable a lot of these fans were. Not gonna lie, there was tons of douchebags. I'm sure people from Scottsdale showed up. If you don't know about Scottsdale, it's like the most laughable dog shit town ever because it's a bunch of rich people who suck. It's like the douchebags in California all got together, decided that they didn't like California because they were getting called out for being douchebags. Now let's go to Arizona and fuck that up. All right, fine. They came over here. So, and I'm definitely generalizing probably, but if you're from Scottsdale, sorry, fuck you. But you had people fighting in the arena. It was like 3 fights, nothing too big, no big deal, and nothing you don't ever see at a Phoenix Suns game or a Cardinals game. But definitely, I think we proved our worth. I hope they come back. Maybe even I don't think they come back with a pay-per-view. Actually, that's probably asking for too much. But hopefully another fight night card. And then again, like I was saying, the fans showed they're knowledgeable. There was a couple times where the fighters were grappling. And just some slight transitions were made, and the crowd recognized it and they cheered, and that to me was impressive. I was like, wow, they know what they're talking about. What the hell? And they know what's going on. It's great. But and then the other thing I want to talk about real quick is I'm sure you saw it on TV, the promo between John Bones Jones and Daniel Cormier. You saw it on TV a bunch of times, right?
That shit up, man. It's like how do you punish the guys and glorify what they did in the next breath? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's to me that's just a discussion for another time. But they played it in the arena maybe double the times they played it on TV. Okay, they played it a ton of times, and the first couple of times they played it, from where I was sitting, you could see the UFC on Fox set. Like I said, Karen Bryant, Helwani, Brian Stan, and Daniel Cormier were there. So Daniel Cormier, every time they played that, he would actually turn around and watch it. He actually turned around to watch it. And then once the crowd figured out, oh crap, it's Daniel Cormier, when the thing ended, they would start chanting, Cormier, Cormier, and the other place started chanting DC, and Daniel Cormier stood up, put his arms up. The arena erupted. They were cheering for Cormier.
I think most people who aren't John Jones nuthuggers think that Daniel Cormier is going to have his way with John Jones, because like I've said on numerous shows that we've done in the past, Daniel Cormier, when he's grabbed a hold of heavyweights, he's throwing them around like rag dolls, and if he gets his hands on John Jones, he's going to have no problem tossing John Jones around either.
No, and I fully agree, but just to give you an idea, I'm pretty sure John Jones would keep his ass out of Arizona because people were cheering Cormier like nobody else, man. And then on the next time they showed the promo, they actually put one of the cameras that was for UFC on Fox. They put it up on the big screens in the arena for everyone to see, and Cormier put his arms up. Dude, it was louder than the first time. The place exploded with cheers. They were cheering Cormier. And then I'm sure you saw it on the broadcast. Cormier made his way down from the studio down to the cage side to talk with Rogan, and then they brought in John Jones via satellite, and they were talking back and forth, whatever. When that was over and Cormier started to make his way up the stairs, again the crowd was cheering DC. So I'm assuming
John's really done himself a disservice becoming and embracing that heel role, because people honestly do not like him now.
I don't know if it's a heel role as much as it is the real John Jones. Okay? By that
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
hey,
Well, I'm being politically correct here, and that's fair for me.
Actually, I agree. That is rare for you, dude. But that's the real John Jones, man. And he showed it on that little interview where they didn't know they were on air still. They weren't technically on air, but they were still feeding the live stream up to a bird satellite, right?
I love that. John Jones realized that, oh shit, everybody knows who I am now.
So how those satellites work, anyone that's plugged into it and has permission to be in it can use whatever goes up there, okay? Yep. And when people were watching it, they're like, hell yeah, record this, get this thing, And so my favorite part, after he says, hey, pussy's still there, and they go back and forth or whatever, and then they tell him, hey, we're still live, guys.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean we're still live?
Yeah,
people
dude, the best part of that promo, he goes, fuck John. You hear that, John? Yeah. Like, oh, dude, I was like, DC got him. That is a verbal knockout. Like, I mean, no, John Jones fucked up, man. But at this point, in my opinion, any fan that isn't a super fan of John Jones has to feel a little offended because John Jones thinks you're a freaking idiot, that you still buy his act. There's no way you buy his act now.
Exactly. I mean, for the longest time, I loved John Jones and I supported him because I didn't see that. I mean, I still can't believe to this day that people could pick up on that phoniness that he exposed himself to be, I mean, early on, I just didn't see it. I saw nothing like that. He seemed like a nice, likable, humble young guy. But, everybody was picking up on that, and I didn't see what he had done, up until the point where he started having those public boners, and I call him Johnny Boner now. I didn't understand what they were seeing from him up until the point where he started making those public guffaws. And I don't know, man. People saw something that I didn't see, but I am now in the camp of where I love John Jones the fighter, but not a fan of John Jones the man.
Yeah, man. John Jones is a douchebag as a person, but as a martial artist, he's the best in the world that we have right now, and it's one of those things.
I don't even think he's a martial artist. I think he's a fighter. I call him a fighter, and I know one of the guys on YouTube, one of the videos that
I think we lost. Rob or Rich. I think we lost Rich. All right, well we'll keep talking, see if he comes back. Otherwise, this stream will end by itself. Thanks to Hangout, that's how they work. Anyway, so what we were talking about right here is John Jones, and my point on this is that John Jones is a great fighter, and I agree with the fighter. Now that I think about it, the difference between a martial artist and a fighter. Martial artists, They're Rich, are you back?
YouTube acting up again on me.
All good, man. I was covering dead air.
I
We're
don't know
good.
what you caught on that so far there, but like I
Yeah,
said,
no, you were started to explain the difference between a martial artist and why you thought John Jones is a fighter and not a martial artist.
yeah. I just think that John Jones does not embrace what martial artists embrace, and that's the respect of being a martial artist. And like I said, before I got cut off there, John Jones just does not possess respect for anybody but himself. I mean, he loves John Jones, and he doesn't respect anybody that he fights. And if he does say that he respects somebody or tries to pay them tribute, who the hell is going to believe him, like you're saying, after seeing that?
Absolutely. And look, it was his mistake to do that. And now that he's caught, him continuing to play that garbage, fake role is hurting him more. At this point, he should just sack up and just be himself, and embrace what I call his inner Kobe Bryant and just be a douchebag. I mean, fine, you're a douche, great, but you're still one of the best on the planet, So, at least be honest with people. That's what I like about Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier is honest.
Yeah, he's real, man.
He's real. Him, look, guys like Chael Sonnen might have played it up a little too much, but Chael Sonnen was honest as well, for the most part, except for the fact that he did drugs. But Nick Diaz, another one of those guys that he'll tell you what he feels. Nate Diaz tells you what he feels.
Yep.
So the fact that John Jones does what he does, plays his little act up, whatever, it's embarrassing himself. It's it's offending everybody else by basically calling everybody stupid for not being able to pick up on it, or at least denying themselves that that's a real John Jones. And so it'll be interesting and that fight's going on in Vegas, I believe, and it'll be interesting to see the crowd reaction for the entrances. Well, in my opinion, I like these little details, little BS details of who's gonna get booed, who's not gonna get booed. I wonder if John Jones walks in and gets booed. I wonder if DC walks in.
I'm sure he will. I mean, like you're saying, man. After watching that and the way that they played that promo over and over again, it's like, how can you respect John Jones, the man? You can respect John Jones, the fighter, because he's such a badass, but he's a complete and utter phony. That he's built that, I'm a decent, God-fearing, religious kind of guy facade,
And the only people that are going to buy that are the God-fearing, weirdos. But anyway, not weirdos, but still. I don't know. Like I said, unless you're a hardcore John Jones fan, you're not buying his act anymore, And you could almost be against him just for the fact that he was fake, that he is fake, and he continues to play that charade. And should DC win, like I think he will, and get the title from him, we could possibly see John Jones not, disappear into obscurity. But I don't know. I think if DC wins that fight, it's not going to be a 5-rounder. I think it'll be pretty damn decisive.
Yeah, I agree with you. And what's really funny is John Jones is now talking about moving up to heavyweight. It's like, you're going to get your ass whooped at heavyweight,
Please put him against a guy like Overeem, like right now. And Overeem would be the low totem pole of the guys that I want him to face. I don't want him to fight Kane unless he earns his way up for that, because Kane would mess him up horribly. Hell, if Brock Lesnar comes back, I want to see Lesnar Jones. Let's see it.
Oh,
just
man.
as a freak show.
Okay,
just as a freak show.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that fight.
Yeah. And I mean, and let's say, look, I 100% believe DC's gonna win. And if and when that happens, John Jones against Gustafsson, unless Gustafsson does get that, does actually go after the title shot, which he should. But maybe against Anthony Johnson, what will Jones do against a striker like Johnson, a guy that throws heat every punch possible? So, I mean,
those are all fights we have to see. I mean, they've got to make those happen.
Yeah. And again, DC, I would love for DC to just be that wrench you just throw into the machine and see what happens. Yeah. And then, then once again, the UFC, who's already having what I call identity issues, because at one point they're like, oh, John Jones is the best in the world, but Ronda Rousey is the face of the UFC. A lot of people don't like women's MMA, so okay, John Jones is the face of the UFC. What about Kane? Kane doesn't talk enough. He doesn't do enough media. Conor McGregor, he's the face of the UFC. So if you throw that DC, wrench in the machine, there goes one of them. John Jones is gonna be in there, as far as the face of the UFC and all that. So, and he definitely loses his #1 status as the best fighter. I don't know who you put in there after, if and when he loses, but I don't know, man. I'm excited for January 3rd. I really am. It's one of those. I actually have it circled on my calendar as a day where I can do nothing but watch fights. And like, I might actually not go to a bar. I might actually get all my friends to come over to my house, and we'll buy the pay-per-view and watch it on the big screen. Because there's no way. I don't want any distractions. I don't want any problems whatsoever. It's one of those.
I'm not going to go out for that one. I think I'm going to buy that pay-per-view just so I can watch Daniel Cormier win the belt.
Yeah, that's how big of a DC fan. In fact, I already ordered my Embrace the Grind shirt. It should be in the mail at some point. So I actually ordered it pretty recently. Yeah. But I don't know, man. It's I can't wait. That's it. That's all I got. Is I can't wait for that one and the Diaz Silva one. And just for the fact that and I was thinking about. I was actually arguing about the Nick Diaz against Santos and Silva yesterday. During one of the in between the breaks. First of all, have you ever been to a UFC event? The breaks between fights really long. You can go take a piss, buy a beer, drink it, go take another piss, buy another beer, buy nachos, and then still have enough time, like 5 minutes left before the fights even start. It's a huge break in between fights.
Yeah.
So I definitely, I don't know. I don't even know where I was going, but I think we were talking about Silva Diaz, and my friend kind of convinced me a little bit that I might just be cheering Diaz because I'm a huge Nick Diaz fan, but that Anderson Silva might mess him up. So.
I've spoken about that too. I just think that Anderson Silva is just going to be too big of a man for Nick Diaz,
Yeah, and man, I hate to say it, but it looks that way. And I'm hoping Nick's taking this fight seriously. He looked in shape when I saw him yesterday. So.
I mean, I just think that Nick just doesn't have the power. Yeah, he's got some PKOs and things like that, but he just, he's an accumulative type of a boxer where he waits for that to do the damage and then he'll move in for the kill. But that's not going to happen against Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, I mean, again, I've said this in the past, we've seen him knock out light heavyweight fighters with a jab,
Yeah, and we're going to see Nick Diaz's chin get tested. We're going to see if how that system of just 50%, 50%, 50%, and then the fourth round 100 on everything from Nick Diaz is going to work against, if he makes it that far, is going to work against the guy like Anderson Silva, who is a heavy-handed guy. And, I mean, we saw, who did he knock out? I think he knocked out either Forrest Griffin or Rich Franklin. He was, like, going backwards with a jab. He knocked him out.
Forrest Griffin.
Forrest Griffin? Yeah, he knocked him out with a jab, falling backwards. What the hell? So again, that to me, I'm more interested in how things are going to work, how the strategy is going to go in that fight, more than watching two guys slug it out.
Yeah, Nick actually said he's not going to attack the leg and he's going to do his boxing.
Really? Attack the fuck out of that leg. What are you doing? That thing. And look,
attack the weak point of your opponent. Yeah.
Right. And when legs, and I think Rogan was making this point on a podcast not too long ago, where he says that when the bone breaks, like a leg bone, any kind of bone is kind of what he was saying. But and I'm definitely paraphrasing like a mother. But he's saying about when you break a bone and it heals, it actually heals stronger. But I would attack that leg because purely on the psychological effect. Of, hey, isn't that your bad leg? Boom! Isn't that your bad leg? Boom! Just over and over again. Just attack that one leg and see what happens.
I don't believe what he said because I think he will do just that. I think he will attack that leg.
Look, man, Nick Diaz he's I think people get the wrong idea about Nick. I think Nick is a lot smarter than people think, and I don't think he's playing a charade by playing dumb. I really do believe he has social anxiety issues and all that, and it makes him irritable and whatnot. But I think he's a lot smarter than he gives out and than he lets people know. And so, especially with the psychological aspect of fighting. So it's I don't know, man. It'll be I'm interested for that fight too, man. And of course we also have the Weidman Vitor fight. Yep. I call that a circus fight because come on, man, Vitor Belfort now? Nah, no way. And then we got Ronda Zingano, which should be the main event of that card in my opinion. But just for the fact that Zingano could actually do something against Ronda. I mean, who else is?
If Zingano does not start off slow like she has a habit of doing, I think she has a chance. But if she starts out slow, it's not going to be to her benefit.
If she starts out slow, Ronda finishes that fight in the first round. Yeah. Because the way we've seen Zingano start slow, it's she leaves opportunities for her opponent to cause damage, right? And what do we know about Ronda Rousey is that no matter what she does to you, she's going to cause major damage, and early and often. So it's something that Zingano, I guarantee, is working on. But I mean, starting off slow, it's a mental thing, man. It's not really a physical thing because you're warmed up in the back.
Exactly.
It's starting off slow is okay. How's the rhythm going? How are they moving? Are they using this? If I throw a jab and follow with the right or follow with the uppercut or whatever, how do they react? In the end, she's got to come in with the killer instinct of, if I don't start quick, I'm gonna lose. So I better get in there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Well, I did want to talk about more stuff, but hell, we spoke for a long time on this one.
We do this every single time. We could talk for hours.
I know. You and I can bullshit away for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could probably go on for another 2 hours, but I think we've gone almost 2 hours now.
Yeah, we're close. I think we're at the 150 mark.
Yeah. Oh, are we really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't really watching the clock, but I know we've been going for a while. But
yeah, we actually have we had a few viewers the entire time. We have 4 watching right now, and in Arizona it's 11 o'clock at night almost. We're like 8 minutes away, which means in the west side it's like 9, and in the east side it's like 1 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 1 for me, and I got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I got to get up in about I got to get up at 3, so 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. So I got like 4 hours of sleep to come. So I'm gonna take a nap real quick and then go to work.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess that's the end of the final thoughts there. We're going to be doing a show and speaking about the class action lawsuit. I had one of my buddies that I know from one of the other MMA sites that I was on in the past, and he contacted me and he wants to speak about the class action lawsuit. So we're going to speak about that. I know that he's not a real big UFC fan. He's got his issues with the UFC, and I have no problem with people having issues with the UFC. But he was, wanting to speak about all the little components of this lawsuit that is being filed by the fighters, the class action lawsuit. So if you want to join us for that one, I'm not quite sure when that is happening, but I know you'd probably like to speak about that as well.
Yeah, man, just let me know when. I'm down for it. Just I'm hoping that more details come out this week. That way, we have a lot more to work with. Because as far as we know right now, all we know is his former fighters, his current fighters. I'm more interested in the current fighters because apparently there's a couple big name fighters that are involved in this, and I'm assuming it's the Diaz brothers. But it's very interesting and
the whole Reebok deal is being thrown into this as well.
Yeah. They were about to put it out there, and when the Reebok deal came out, they're like, wait a minute, we got to do something real quick. We got to fix this real quick, which is a smart move. So they're definitely gonna look into it. And big ups to the guys from Bloody Elbow who broke that story. John S. Nash and Brent Brookhouse, I believe, were the ones that did the investigative journalism work that Karen Bryant and Ariel Helwani have no idea how to do. That what? I know we got a little bit. We're almost at 2 hours, but I gotta speak on it because it's bothering the hell out of me.
Okay, go ahead.
Real fast. Watching the UFC Fight Pass prelims, you were privy to Helwani and Karen Bryant talking like this. Karen Bryant said, "Oh, well, in order to be a journalist these days, all you need is a Twitter account," basically poking fun at people like us that have MMA websites and look, all we have is a Twitter account to contact some of these guys, right? So they go off and they're like, yeah, all you need is a Twitter account. Hawaii's like, haha, that's right. What are they saying? They're saying that they're journalists and people like us aren't. Here's what I'm saying. We're not journalists. No way. Because we don't do investigative work. We don't go behind the scenes.
I call what you and I do opinion editorialists because we're long-term MMA fans who know enough about the sport and we have opinions that we want to voice about it.
Yeah, and we just happen to enjoy talking to fighters and getting interviews and doing these videos and doing the radio shows and doing the websites and all that. That's honestly a habit. Neither one of us are making money off of this, really. But, they are two people that work for the UFC that pretend to be journalists. They're if you really think about it and look what they actually do, they just promote fights. I mean, Helwani brings fighters on his show that he interviews them and all that, and then he just talks about their fight. I've never seen Helwani actually do investigative journalism, investigative work, go behind the scenes and write something that might be against the UFC, because can you imagine Helwani writing something against the UFC? He'd get fired so fast. He's not going to take that risk.
Yeah,
right?
DFW is not really a fan of his to begin with anyway.
Exactly. And look, Karen Bryant, I like Karen Bryant, but her comment pissed me the hell off, because she, look, all she does is promote fights and promote fighters. What is Tough Talk? You're promoting Tough 20. What is her podcast? She talks to fighters. The one thing I will say that was journalistic-ish that she did was talk to Rose Namajunas about that whole thing that went down at Rufus Sport with Duke Rufus and that fighter that died. That's the closest she came to it. And the best that she did with that was bring her on a hangout and post it on YouTube. Okay?
Yep.
So, yeah, you're not a journalist, Helwani. You're not a journalist, Karen. Please don't call yourself a journalist. And, don't make yourself look really, really, really stupid when a lot of the things that you do are off of Twitter. Okay? Come on, right?
Yep.
So, I don't know. That bothers the hell out of me, man. It's the labels and the fact that they take shots at people on the internet. I'm not offended for them to say, like, oh, everyone thinks they're journalists. I have a degree in journalism, and I don't call myself a journalist. Okay? I've done the actual journalism work. I've worked for a newspaper before. Okay? I know what real journalism work is. What they do is not journalism. What they do is promotion. Okay? So let's just call it what it is, straight up. So that's my little rant, and I had a lot more to go, but I'd be just getting mad, and I can't go to sleep mad, because then I won't sleep. So.
Yeah, we spoke about this before the show started, so.
Yeah, I had to get it out, dude. And I talked about it on my show this morning or earlier today, and I lost my shit on there too. So it's the little things like that bother me, man. It's not even like, I'm sure Helwani's a great guy, and I'm sure Karen, and I know Karen Bryant's a great person. She's cool, and I like a lot of things that she does. But again, don't shit on somebody when you're defining yourself in the same sentence. You're a Twitter person too.
Exactly.
So, whatever, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of people giving me a hard time, too. I mean, they think that we're doing this as professionals. We're doing this as fans of the sport. If I was doing this as a professional, do you think I would be sitting here doing this on Google, or on YouTube? No, I wouldn't.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'd be with, hanging out with Luke Thomas somewhere, who writes for, I think, MMA Fighting and hanging out. That guy's interesting as hell, man. That's one guy I'll call a journalist. He actually does some real work.
No.
And he doesn't go on talking. He'll actually, what Luke Thomas does? He actually uses the Hangout. He gets paid to do this, by the way. But he goes on the Hangout, and he does his show on there. And I'm a big fan of his. I love why. At first, I'm not going to lie. When I first saw him, I hated the hell out of him. But then I grew to like him. So, it's one of those guys that I like and everything. But, yeah, definitely, like people will get on me about stuff I say on Twitter. I'll get like one thing wrong. It's like, oh wow, I can't believe you got that detail wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. I was typing that in between my work while I'm at work.
Yes.
Doing what I actually do for a living. So, chill the fuck out.
I know. People give me a hard time. Oh, well, the audio quality sucks, or there's no fucking video, or fuck, I'm not getting paid to do this. I do this because I enjoy speaking about MMA.
Hell, we invite people to come on here. Anybody to come on here. What do you, it's like, shit.
I mean, if you want to come on and talk about MMA, come on. I mean, but don't, bang the show because it's not to your liking or it's not to professional standards. It's fucking YouTube.
Yeah, man. It's, look, we're doing the best we can with what we got. And, we don't have a studio of our own. We don't have studios to work with or anything. And look, I'm not going to lie. That's my dream. My dream is to be able to get paid to do this. I mean, to be able to wake up and talk about the sport that I love, and something that I know a little bit about at least, and do that kind of work, and I still wouldn't call myself a journalist. I don't
think people realize how much goes into doing these, because in the beginning when I started doing my shows, I actually did post-production work. And usually it'll take me a day, maybe 2 days, depending upon what kind of show I'm doing. If I'm interviewing a fighter, I usually like to write up their entire history. And then, you spend a couple days doing that. And then in post-production, when you're adding all the graphics and all the transitions and everything like that, you're spending 50 hours a week doing that. And to spend 50 hours a week doing post-production work for something you're not even getting paid for, it's difficult to make that time because life just has a way of getting in the way of doing those things. So, that's the reason why I transitioned to doing the live streaming shows on YouTube, because, life is hectic, and, I still want to do the shows, but I just don't have the time to do them like I did them early on. And, putting in 50 hours a week of post-production work, I can't do it, but I would love to do it if I was getting paid to do it, and I would have no problem doing it. I mean, I still do it for the short shows when none of the other guys show up, but, I don't do it to the extreme that I did it in the past.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, I'll say this about I guess to end it here, because it's like 2 hours now. The difference between us and the people that complain about this, because I know we're all fans. They're watching this for a reason. The difference between them and us is that we have the passion and, more importantly, the balls to put our opinions and and all this stuff out there. It takes not everyone can actually take their creative work and put it out there to get criticized by the internet. That's the scariest thing you could do. One of the scariest things you could do is put yourself in a crowd of put your creative work and what you put your passion into out for a bunch of faceless strangers to criticize and pick the hell out of.
I'm surprised too, because a lot of people are so supportive. Like, when we did the tough preview and recap series that I did, I strung them all together. By the way, I still have to do the finale show, but I put all those together, and I couldn't believe the support that I got for doing that series of preview and recap shows. And I'm surprised there's not too many people. I mean, yeah, you get some people that you don't like. They don't like what you say about a fighter, and they'll downvote you, but they really don't have any comments to make to contribute. And if they did, I would engage those people to come on the show. If you want to talk about something or you disagree with something, I'd love to disagree with people and have a conversation, because that's what debate is all about. I mean, getting on YouTube and going, "Oh, fuck you, fuck off." I mean, I usually just ban those people and delete their comments, because that doesn't contribute anything. But if you want to actually come on and debate something, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, no, for sure, and I agree 100%. I've gotten so much support on the radio shows that I do with the Crossbones MMA and John and Nick and all them, and then the people that they're watching this now. I mean, I tweet the link out too, and some of the people hit me up later like, "Hey, you guys did a good job," and there's a lot of cool people out here, a lot of really good, honest people, but there's a lot of nasty ass people too. So it takes a lot. Sometimes it takes courage to put stuff out there. Something that trolls don't have any of, because they hide behind the keyboard and everything. But honestly, big thanks to people that are supportive people, that are positive people, and those are the kind of people that I like interacting with. And I'll interact with trolls too. Fine, I find it fun. I could play that game too if they want to, but at the same time, you're right. Doing this stuff does take a lot of time. It's all my free time. I spend all my free time doing this stuff. So.
Me too.
But it's what, I don't regret any of it, because it's a passion, and if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be playing Call of Duty or something on PS3. So
exactly.
This is at least creative and productive.
Exactly. All right, buddy. I guess that's it. We've reached the end of the show. Thank you for joining me, my friend. I appreciate it. It's always interesting when you show up, and as always, you're welcome to join me anytime I do these. Like I said, we'll be doing that class action lawsuit show in a few days. Probably a day or two. I'm not exactly sure yet. Waiting for James Ryan to get back to me. But I do want to thank those who listened to and supported the Tough 20 preview and recap series that I did for Tough 20. And again, if you'd like to join us to chat about some MMA, talk about MMA fight predictions or any of the events or MMA news, or if you want to just come on and disagree with us about things that we've spoken about, again, I have no problem with that. Come on and join us, and we'll hash things out, and we'll chat about things there. So if you want to do that, go on over to MMA Chat forums where we plan the shows, create an account, let us know that you'd like to join us on the show, and we'll give you access to the area of the site where we plan and coordinate the show. So again, thanks for the support. I appreciate it. And the links to the forums is in the description of the video, and all of our social networking links are there as well. So again, Eddie, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Always love having you on the show, buddy.
No problem, man. Just let me know when, and if I'm able to pull it, I'll be there.
Okay, my friend. All right, have a good one, man. I'll talk to you within the next day or two.
All right, man. Later.
All right, bye-bye.